Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12th order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law and the governor's March 15th order imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place due to the outbreak of the coronavirus, this meeting of the Town of Berlin Select Board will be conducted via remote participation. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time. The Town of Berlin will use best efforts to post an audio or video recording, transcript, or other comprehensive record of proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting on the town's webpage, the town's YouTube channel. Approved minutes will be posted to mytowngovernment.org. For this meeting, members of the public who wish to attend the virtual meeting may attend via the Zoom webinar platform in one of two ways, with both audio and video access or by telephone audio only. Should any board member have technical difficulties and/or lose access to the meeting will recess for a period of time to see whether access can be restored. If not, the meeting will be continued to another date agreed to by a majority of the board or adjourned until our next scheduled meeting. We'll call the meeting to order at 6:33. We do have need for an executive session right off the bat. The board will enter executive session pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A3, to discuss strategy with respect to potential acceptance of Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 32B, Sections 21 through 23, and consideration of the implementation group health insurance benefit changes, and will return to open session thereafter to conduct its regular business meeting. Keefe, aye.
Stone eye.
Hawkins, aye.
Okay, that's unanimous. So
See you in a bit.
will see you shortly. Hi, Scott.
Aye.
All right, we're back from our executive session, and we have approval of the minutes of December 14th open session. Do I hear a motion to approve?
Seconded.
So moved. Sorry. She's seconding. I'm moving, even if she's
That's
seconding
right.
before I moved.
Come on.
Sorry, just moving it along.
All
Yep.
right. So is there any comments or questions? I believe, hopefully you saw my typo corrections that Mary put in the Google Drive.
Mhm.
Yep.
Okay, and we're okay with it?
Yes.
All right, and we've got a motion and a second, and we'll take a vote. Keefe, aye.
Stone eye.
Hawkins, aye.
That's unanimous. Margaret, did we have any correspondence?
No, there's no new correspondence.
Okay,
I should say, excuse me, through the chair, the petitions that the board was aware about on the Village Center pilot project came in and were distributed to the board. So I'm going to be compiling those abbreviated comments with all the others that were received. That's
okay.
it. Okay.
All right. Let's see, general public comment.
I don't know if I qualify as general public. I think I should say for the meeting that I'm actually in a moving vehicle and wasn't planning on being able to making tonight's meeting. So any of my attendance is bonus. And if I have technical problems, please continue the meeting without me.
Okay,
And
Mary?
you might want to ask people to raise their hands.
Yes, if you want to, if you have a general public comment, you're welcome to raise your hand. Is there one? Okay. I don't see a hand.
I just promoted Amy Davidson. Amy, if you can open your microphone.
Could you, are
Brett,
you,
Brett.
can you allow attendees to talk from the audience, or do they have to be promoted as panelists, Mary?
I can just leave them in the audience, I think, if you would
Mhm.
prefer that.
Mhm.
Well, that's fine for now.
Yep.
Amy, you have a general public comment?
Yes, I understand that you're considering the adoption of Chapter 32B, Sections 21 to 23. Let me back up here and tell you who I am and why I'm here. I represent the Mass Coalition of Police and various other unions and have been over the last 20 years doing a lot of work in the area of health insurance. And I am representing the Berlin Police Officers Union tonight. And I am here to urge you not to adopt those sections and to give the parties the opportunity to work out some other creative solutions. It can be done. It has been done where towns have agreed not to adopt. I'm trying to think. When's the last one? Dedham agreed not to adopt it and sat down and negotiated with their unions and worked out something without adopting the law. Boston did. I can't think of any others right off the top of my head, but there are other solutions to the problem. And the thing is, once you adopt those sections, you are on like a fast track that you cannot get off. I mean, immediately you start this 30-day period during which, you have to negotiate. If you don't reach an agreement, then, they implement wherever you were or wherever the town was. It's really, it's a real anti-employee, I guess I would say, piece of legislation. And I do think that unions can, and Berlin can, and I expect will, and I will be working with them, be able to come up with another creative solution. We understand you need to save money. As I say, we were able to do that in Dedham. That's the most recent one. We've been able to do it in Boston without adopting 21 to 23. So that's what I'm here to say.
Okay, thank you, Amy.
Thank you.
Through the chair, in the interest of time, if there are additional questions, I would ask that the attendees be allowed to speak from the audience so they don't have to be promoted and put down again. Okay, thanks.
Okay. Yep. Okay, we're all set?
I don't see any other hands.
Okay, thanks, Mary. Okay, then we're going to move on to our appointment with our department update, which is highway. You want to promote Dave?
Good evening.
Hi, Dave.
Hey, Dave.
How are you?
How are you is the bigger question. I saw the trucks going up and down the road today. So how are you guys doing?
Yeah, we've been, it was a busy month for storms. That's what we're there for. So I'm assuming you all have my printed report and have read it.
Mhm.
Yes.
Winter snuck up on us rather quickly, the end of October, and hasn't given us a lot of time actually to do our fall cleanup on a lot of things. We were just pretty much in the middle of picking up our leaves when the snow came, and it really hasn't left. But that's the way it goes sometimes. We're finally at full staff, so that's a good thing. It was kind of a quick learning curve for the two new guys to learn their routes and how things are done, how the guys like it to be done, and the challenges of putting snow so that it doesn't get the residents too upset. Like I said, we are finally at full staff. Aiden is no longer with us. We maxed out his hours, so we had to let him go. But we do have a intern that came to us through the Bay State Roads Union Cooperative. He's there for 8 weeks. I think he has 2 more weeks, and he'll be done. But that's it works out quite well. It's at no cost to the town, so it gives us an extra set of hands, and it also gives an individual a little bit of insight into what the highway department does. So hopefully he can move on and get a full-time position with some department. Let's see, building maintenance. We did a few days in the town office. We've had some issues with the heat again there. One of the circulator pumps has failed. We have one on order. So hopefully within the next couple of weeks, that'll get replaced. Fred did quite a substantial work on the guardrails on his route. And we spent one day with our tree company removing trees on Lyman Road, as Margaret will vouch for.
7:15, there's Dave. I'm like, well, there's a good wake-up call. Good morning, Dave.
Sorry, I was late.
No worries, I appreciate it.
We did the pilot program downtown. We helped with setting that up and breaking that down. And of course, everybody's aware of the amount of comments and whatnot that has received. Basically, that's it. Those people have any questions?
Questions for Dave?
Not today.
No, and Dave, honestly, all kidding aside, you being outside my window and awakening me that day, as the snow was falling fast and feverishly, I was extremely grateful looking at those trees that would have potentially taken the wires down, and praised you and the guys' efforts. So thank you for all you
thank you.
do for taking care of those dead trees.
I was hoping to get a couple more days in before the winter weather turned, but we'll probably get another couple days in here before the next month or so, taking some more of the hazard trees down.
In January?
How's the do you have somebody on a senior work off? Is he helping you with business with building stuff? Or did I
Mostly
make
he
that up?
comes, he does the cleaning and maintenance stuff around the highway building.
Okay.
And he comes in on Thursdays and spends like 3 hours.
Fun.
Very good. Any other questions for Dave?
Is there anything that we can do for you, Dave? Anything that you
No.
need besides, money for trees and
Yeah.
other things? Are you guys,
No,
are you
I'm
guys
fine.
good?
Things are good. I think the guys are okay. Just waiting for spring. I hate winter.
Well, you're in the wrong part of the country then.
Yeah, I know.
All right. Well, I thank you, Dave, for coming by.
All right.
Thank you, Dave. Get some sleep. Appreciate everything you do.
All right. Have a good night.
You too.
All right. Seeing how it's only 7:11, then we'll move on to the town administrator report.
Oh, my gosh. Okay, I had everything in order. I have to switch the order. It's not going to be a huge thing. I know there had been a few questions asked about when vaccines will be given to the general population, starting with seniors. So I obviously can't give specifics. What I can say is that the state is going to great lengths to assure that EMTs, paramedics, registered nurses, and other healthcare professionals will be trained and available to give the vaccine. So that's one thing. The other thing is the state has rolled out 3 phases for the vaccine distribution, and I have very little detail on these rollouts. However, in the order of priority, the state is really targeting clinical and non-clinical healthcare workers who are dealing either directly with COVID patients or are around COVID patients. They're going to be prioritizing long-term care facilities, rest homes, and assisted living facilities, police, fire, and emergency medical services, congregate care settings such as correctional facilities and shelters, home-based healthcare workers, so people that are interacting a lot with the public, and healthcare. And then at the bottom of that first phase would be healthcare workers that are doing non-COVID facing care. In phase 2, this is where the senior population would likely be vaccinated. So they'll be in phase 2, the state has prioritized individuals with 2 or more comorbidities that puts them at a higher risk for COVID complications. Early education, K through 12, transit workers, grocery store workers, really high public facing occupations, adults 65 and older, And then at the bottom of that phase 2 would be individuals with one comorbidity. And then finally in phase 3, which would not be starting until at least April 2021, would be that vaccinations would be available to the general public. That said, over this past week, the state has learned that it's receiving 20% fewer vaccines in the first round than it had initially thought it would have. So there are going to be bumps with the rollout and probably some delays through these phases. I'll do my best, and I know that the town has reached out to the Board of Health and Neshoba for additional details, but I'll do my best to try to keep you posted as this moves forward. So just a couple of items on my my TA report. With respect to the board's recent discussions on financial support to nonprofit charitable organizations, you've had discussions on the Berlin Food Pantry and wheat. I sent the board information on the anti-aid amendment to the Mass Constitution, which is this this limiting. I wouldn't call it a statute; it's a constitutional amendment. It limits municipalities and the donations that they can provide. It actually restricts municipal ability to provide donations. So this is why I've explained that any kind of contributions to nonprofits like these really has to be done in a structured way through an assessment, through a contract assessment. So I'm looking more into the legalities of this for the board's future discussion. I thought you were probably going to be talking about it at your next meeting, and I'm looking further into those legalities for you. The library septic invitation for bids is finally being reissued. It's being reissued on Monday, December 28th, and the bid submission deadline is going to be January 28th. That should give contractors plenty of time to put their bids together and submit them. It should leave plenty of time for the construction work to be completed by May 31st. The parking lot resurfacing IFB is in the queue, and that's coming up next. I have to get those bid docs ready and postings done. And thank you to Mary for helping with all those, the publications. She's working on this bid submission spreadsheet as well. The board has, I think I've notified the board that the governor's office has confirmed the filing of the petition on the special legislation to extend Chief Clark's ability to serve beyond age 65. And I have received confirmation from Senator Tran's office, and I believe Harold, if he's in the audience, I believe his office is also in the loop on that, as well as the school committee election special legislation. June, Richard Hanks, building commissioner, and I have been, and Leanne, the inspection land use clerk, have been working on a way that we can revise the way the electrical and plumbing and gas inspectors offset receipts, or the work they do through offset receipts is billed, to allow for more streamlined and more efficient interdepartmental tracking. And that's something that's probably going to be brought to the board in the not too distant future. We need, now that the Riverbridge apartments are done, that was a huge project, and we're in kind of this small period of time where things are, I don't want to say slow, but we just have a little bit of break between those apartments and the next big projects that are coming. So now's the time to be addressing this. On the Riverbridge discussions regarding the public safety mitigation payment, the Sennies have requested until the week of January 4th to get back to the town on their first annual public safety mitigation payment that was due on November 1st. So they've asked until the week of January 4th. I said that I would not speak for the board or FinCom, but that I understood that it will take time, and that I believe the town is willing to work with them in the week of January 4th. It is, if it's okay with the board and FinCom. Finally, the Energy Committee, with the two new members and existing member Eloise Sauls, met last week, December 15th. They discussed their charge and projects, including the Meta Grant funded Highway Barn Energy Consulting projects, and they've been given a list of vendors that the state has and are reviewing them for qualifications. That's it for now. Thank you.
Questions for Margaret from the board? Is everybody awake?
Oh, wow.
No,
My new goal.
no.
How many people can I
No,
put
I'm not
to
meaning that
sleep?
on your account. They just look sleepy.
No, I was reading through Margaret's report.
If Scott's been driving for 20 hours, he's probably sleepy.
Yeah.
To be clear, I'm not driving. I'm in a passenger seat.
Oh, riding.
Okay. Well, we're going to move on to old business and the acceptance of Mass General Law, Chapter 32B, Section 21 through 23, allowing the town to implement the process to change health insurance benefits. Is there anything that the board would like to say at this point? Or do I hear a motion?
So moved. Oh, Mary's got a hand up.
There's a hand in the audience.
Oh,
Does the board choose to hear from someone at this point, or should we take a vote first and then hear from this person?
I'm okay to hear.
Yeah, I'm okay to hear from someone first.
And then just, yeah, take it
Okay.
under advisement.
I'm just watching the time
Oh,
because
there
we
goes
do have-
Margaret.
I just want to reiterate, this is acceptance of the statute to allow the town to implement the process to change health insurance benefits. The acceptance of this statute does not change plan design, which is to be negotiated under those statutes. It is simply to give the town the ability at any time it wants to implement the process to change the health insurance benefits.
Okay.
Um,
You want to just let him speak?
Yep, he's being allowed to talk. David Goulding, if you want to open up your microphone.
I'm watching the time too because we've
Uh-huh.
got something at 7:30.
There it is. Okay.
Okay,
Is that working?
Yes.
got it.
Okay, and thank you very much. And Chris, I did hear your comment about time, and I know that's reference to my history of talking. I appreciate that. I apologize, I didn't raise my hand earlier. I was a little confused. Received this letter from our president of our union, Carl Corvo, and I'm speaking as a member of the union and also the IAC. And you went into executive session, so I really wasn't sure when the time was to speak. And I understood executive session regarding personal matters, and I know that's to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining or litigation where an open meeting may be detrimental. I only want to say we're a little blindsided. I have some of the notes that say in 11:12, the treasurer and the town administrator with the benefits consultant, Jill Gallant, and the Maya rep met, Tara Fafford. IAC was never notified. And then there were several other meetings. So I guess I'm going to speak as an employee that I've talked to some of the other employees. Our morale is kind of at the bottom right now because we saw this letter. We saw you went into executive session. We don't know what's going on. There's a fear factor, and there seems to be a lack of communication. And in no way in the last 10 years, when I've come to the board and asked to look at better costs for both the residents and the employees, has it been adversary? We've always looked at it as what can we do best for the residents and the employees? And quite frankly, speaking to the non-union employees and the union employees, they're really nervous and upset that stuff is being done that they're not being informed on. And I know that's not your intention, but with
Right.
COVID and Zoom, there's a lot of people like myself in the dinosaur age. And we don't understand a lot of what's going on. And I'm going to ask as an employee that there's a better decision to both the residents that expect the quality of service that we've been providing, knowing that the town would help us and take care of us. We're nervous right now, not only with the pandemic, we're nervous and we're still working 24/7, highway plowed in the last storm, fire department went out and the police department's working right now. So I'm asking that you cautiously move forward as I heard from our attorney, this is not a good move. I noticed that our bordering communities are not involved in this. So that gives me a little red flag. I'm nervous. And I'm glad after 5 years of asking to hire a consultant, the town did, but we never had to sit down with this consultant to say, what's out there and what can we do? This is moving very quick. And in this day and age, I'm nervous. And thank you for hearing me, Chris. I'll stop talking.
Well, David, I just want to assure you that you have a board who cares very much about the employees that work for the town. And we've been told that there is not a rush, and that this information will be coming to the IAC at some point, and the union and all of the employees, and not to be nervous. This just gives the town the ability to change, to implement a process to change health benefits. It doesn't, there will be a negotiation of some kind. And I just want to put your mind at ease, and all of the other employees also.
Can you hear me? Can I say thank you? Is that?
Sure.
my voice?
I
Right,
can
no.
hear you.
No, thank you, Chris. But be aware,
I
the
am.
law shows a 30-day time limit. Here it is December, and I never knew about any of these meetings that took place on 11/12. And now I'm finding out. My only conversation with the town administrator a year ago was, we need to do something. And I don't want to paraphrase a quote, but she said she would look at something that's best for the town and best for the employees. And we know everything else has been going on. We just don't want to be left out of the loop. And when we look at cost savings, we've lost 2 employees from this department to go to better benefits. We lost a highway department employee that I know wrote in his statement about benefits. And to retain quality people, sometimes it's not worth, throwing the baby out with the wash. So I hope the board looks at the real numbers, not just numbers from agencies, but what's the cost to the town. So thank you. And I'm relieved, but also I'm ignorant and a dinosaur with technology. And I'll speak for other employees, they're out of the loop too. Please keep us updated, Chris. I trust you on that, okay?
Okay, we
All right,
will.
thank you. Thank you. And that was very quick. That was your Christmas present.
Thank you. Okay. Is there anything else to be said by the board members? I see no other hands. Go ahead.
No, I mean, I both hear what was said and what the lawyer said earlier, and I agree. I think there are likely solutions that both help the taxpayer and are better for the towns. That policy hasn't been changed in my time on FinCom and my time on the board, and there's probably something better out there. And I don't think this is. I don't think this needs to be well. I don't think this is going to be rushed as fast as people fear, and have some trust in us that we do hear that and want good employees and want good employees to be able to stay.
Absolutely. And anything else from you, Peg?
No. I mean, I come from health and benefits world. I know how scary changes can be. I know how important communication is to everybody. In fact, personally, I'm going through it now. My company was bought, so now we're all moving into other plans and everyone's kind of scrambling. So, Officer Goody, I hear you. And no, we're not going to move forward. We're not going to move in a box of silence. So I'm sure that there will be tons of communication and outreach to everyone who is impacted. And I'm sure I don't like to speak for the board, but on this one time that I will, if you have any questions, you know how to track down the 3 of us. You know where Margaret sits on a daily basis. So you are always welcome to come by and talk to any of us.
Absolutely. Thanks, Margaret.
And if I could add, to Goody's point, he and I did talk. We talked about what the what the patrolmen's union would be interested in and things like that. And those things have been taken into account in the scope of services in the contract. And I'm happy to share that with Goody and the union. I don't know if it's up on our website currently, but there is an executed contract with the benefits consultant and the scope of services. So I'm more than happy to share that with Goody, so they know that their concerns are also being addressed in that scope of service.
Right. Okay. With all that being said,
Oh, Mary.
oh.
Mary.
one more?
Dave's hand is back again.
If there's no one else with a hand up, you can call on him again.
There is no one else with their hand up.
Okay. One more quick comment, or is it an error putting your hand up?
Go ahead, Dave. You can open your mic.
Thank you very much. That makes sense. I do know how to find each one of you, Peg, but I'll do it legally. But I will follow the rules. As Margaret's listening, I won't talk to you individually, but I'm not just talking about the union. I'm talking about the unsung, unrepresented employees that have approached me. And I don't like to use the word union, even though the lawyer spoke. I'm in it because I have to be. I don't have a choice, but I'm here as an employee, as a friend, and as a longtime person that cares about the town. And I will say, I started here when we had nothing. And as an employee that had nothing, we expected to be taken care of as the town grew financially and benefited, and we stayed through the tough times. And the residents know that, okay? And they appreciate what we've done. And I'm asking you as a board, including the town administrator, who's new to the area, new to the situation of Berlin, we care, we expect you to care. And I've never said we wanted the goose or the golden egg. We just wanted parity. And I don't see any neighboring towns taking this option that are similar in size or strength to us. And we all know the teachers went a different route. So we're left here, highway, clerical, and police department, but we didn't leave you. Good night, and I'll stop. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. All right. Do I hear a motion?
I'll make it. I make a motion to accept Mass General Law, Chapter 32B, Sections 21 through 23, allowing the town to implement the process to change health insurance benefits.
Do I
I
hear?
will second that.
Okay. Is there anything else that you'd like to say before we take a vote? Okay. Then we will take a vote. Keefe, aye.
Stone Eye.
Hawkins, aye.
And just to reiterate, this is a way to implement a process to change health benefits. This doesn't mean, it's a done deal. We're going to work with the employees and whoever else we need to work with. And thank you, Jill and Sue, for your help on this. And let's see, it's 7:30. Do we have our special guest with us?
I'm here, Madam Chair.
Hello.
Aw.
Can you hear me?
I can.
Hi, Hank.
How's everyone doing?
Good.
Very well, Hank.
How are you?
Oh, I'm misty. You're my third board of the night, and I.
Oh, no. You still there?
Oh,
Oh, he's on mute.
Unmute.
Here we go.
There he is.
So I'll try not to get misty like I have at every board I've talked to so far. But no, thank you for extending this courtesy and the time.
Absolutely.
It's been, well, I've got Madam Chair, and through you to your members and to the public, I do have a quick legislative report before I ask for the courtesy to make a few personal comments. Would you like me to proceed?
Sure.
So the House 3935, the act validating the annual town meeting, is now in Senate third reading. So literally almost the last stop before it can go out to the governor. And we've been working with the governor's office on what has become, as of Friday, House 5207, regarding appointment of Chief Clark. And it was filed by the governor Friday, and it was referred to the Committee on Public Service today. I will speak with Chairman Jerry Paracella, who's the chairman of that committee, and hopefully get them to do a quick hearing. We are actually in session both tomorrow and Friday, tomorrow and Wednesday at the House virtually. So hopefully we'll get some movement. Do have hope that we can get this done before the end of the year, but Representative-elect Kilcoyne is fully read in on all of this. So she's ready to run with that ball and several others. If we don't, I do anticipate us being in session next week, maybe through New Year's Eve. I can only remember one time in 26 years when we were in session on New Year's Eve, and I think it was after 9/11 and the economic downturn that happened at that time. There's an update on a different update than I gave to the Boylston Board of Selectmen last week on the home rule petition regarding that the governor's office was requested to file in regard to the school committee. Is that it?
Yes.
So according to the SJC, because it affects two towns, a home rule petition is not needed. It's or is not appropriate. And we can get you this, not that it necessarily matters in the long run, so that it actually becomes a bill that either myself or Representative Kilcoyne will file, and Senator Chandler. So honestly, this one, not being a home rule petition, will not likely get the level of speed that a home rule petition would. Even though technically to you guys it's a home rule petition, the governor's office, and based on an SJC ruling, has determined that it really isn't a home rule petition. So it's it's a substantive bill that the sitting member can file. So we'll see tomorrow whether or not it's of an advantage for me to file it. I don't know that it would be. I think Meg Kilcoyne and Senator Chandler, but actually it'd be Senator Cronin, wouldn't it? Senator-elect Cronin. But yeah, not that Senator Chandler doesn't want to be helpful. We have asked her to be helpful because of her seniority in the Senate on other things on behalf of the town in the past. So that is my, let's see. Yeah, that's my legislative report for the moment. If anybody has any questions.
Questions, anybody?
Thank you for the update, Hank.
Sure, absolutely.
I appreciate it.
No.
So, Hank, we have a little something we wanted to read. Grab your Kleenex.
My ex-wife used to call me Barbara because I'd weep at a toilet paper commercial, you know.
All right.
Not to be sexist, not that being Barbara is anything wrong with that.
Right.
Hank, it's better than being a Karen, just saying.
All right. Well, Mary nicely put something together, and I put my touches on it too. So, so dear Harold, In April, you announced that you would not seek a 14th term as House Representative for the 12th Worcester District. This evening, we, the Berlin Select Board, want to wish you the best as you forge forward into a new future in your legal career. We would be remiss to let you leave office next month without pausing to thank you on behalf of the residents of Berlin for your decades of service to the Commonwealth and specifically for your service to the 12th Worcester District communities of Berlin, Boylston, Clinton, Lancaster, Northborough, and Sterling. But indeed, your passion for public service has served us well here in Worcester County, Massachusetts, the United States, and beyond. You served as a Worcester County Assistant District Attorney from 1992 to 1995 and have been in private criminal defense and civil law practice ever since. At the age of 35, you were first elected to the House in 1995 and have served continuously ever since for 13 consecutive two-year terms. Although you briefly flirted with a statewide run for Massachusetts Attorney General, you returned to our benefit and relaunched a successful re-election campaign in 2014. You have championed Berlin's interests on Beacon Hill, including economic development initiatives, Berlin-Boylston School District regionalization, MassWorks, cultural and public safety grants, advocacy during times of crisis, including the threats to care levels of UMass Clinton and the formerly proposed Tennessee gas pipeline project, conservation concerns and assistance, Veterans Affairs, and much, much more. Your legislative priorities have successfully focused on local affairs, education, the environment, Veterans Affairs, and constituent outreach. Following the 9/11 attacks, you joined the U.S. Army Reserve and attained the rank of major within the Judge Advocate General's Corps. And we pause in recognition of the medals you've earned during your military service for our country. I counted 15. For these and so many other reasons, we thank you, Hank, for your service to the common good, including Berlin, Worcester County, the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, the United States of America, and our world. We wish you continued success in your coming ventures in law and are fortunate that you have provided succession planning with Meg Kilcoyne, who assumes the office you've held in the new year, January 6th. Sincerely, the Berlin Select Board, Christine Keefe, Margaret Stone, R. Scott Hawkins.
Wow.
So again, we just wanted to say thank you. You have been such a help to our community. And I don't know if Peg or Scott have anything to add. We're just so thankful that you've been helpful to our community.
Very much so. Meg has some big shoes to fill, and I know as soon as she's sworn in, I'm going to try and get her to get to the board so that we can talk to her, find out what she can do to continue to help the town of Berlin and all our surrounding towns. So thank you, Hank. Appreciate everything you've done.
Thank you, Hank. It's been great.
Meg will be like a 5-term incumbent. I mean, she has done great work in my office for the last 10 years, and the district's lucky to be getting her. And personally, because I was such a staunch supporter of hers, I want to thank the town and everyone for supporting her. And believe me, she's going to do a fantastic job. I was hoping we could do this in person, but such is the world. But thank you. Thank you for those incredibly kind words and the nice video presentation you put up. That was a surprise. And the other towns did that. Sterling's left. They're going to have to challenge them to have, it was September of 2011. And I was at Fort Benning, Georgia, walking in the conference, the committee on redistricting was debating what the next redistricting statewide would look like. And I was walking up the ramp of a C-130 for a 22-hour flight to Afghanistan. And literally the last call came in and said, it was from the committee, and members don't have a lot of input, but they have some, especially if you achieve some level of seniority. And they said, we've got to give you a town, got to add a town. And they said it could be Princeton, which I actually did represent at the start of my career for 6 years, or it could be Berlin. And I said, and I love Princeton, they were always good, and it's a great little town. But I said, well, I drive through it twice every day on my way to and from Boston, and I know half the people there already, so I'll take Berlin if you can give it to me. And went and spent 10 months in Kandahar and came back. By the time I came back, the new districts were set, and everybody's been tremendous. I think I've knocked on every door in town at least twice during primaries and generals. Summers are always marked by the start, Memorial Day, the great parades, and being on the Common over the summer, stopping at Lowe's, for coffee, and to catch up. Every town should have a Lowe's where you can go in for 10 minutes in the morning and come out knowing everything that's going on. And I wish the sergeants well, took it over in the time of COVID. Anyone who starts a new business. But, over the years, constituents become friends, and then friends become like family, and that's what it's been. This was difficult. This was the best decision for my family, for my 4 kids, and for just a tremendous opportunity to practice the type of law on a national level that was really one of the things that drove me for a bit to run for Attorney General. But this best, but it's not without some afterthought and without some level of being bittersweet. I've been cleaning out my back office here. Most of you have been in my little office over here in Clinton. 26 years of files. I've already taken out probably 20 to 30 bankers boxes. And Clinton Savings Bank has been give me such a courtesy to shred the files. And I wish I started 6 months ago, because I'd love to go through everyone. Everyone brings either a memory or a chuckle or a laugh. All the people from the district, people that you hope you helped. I have my 3 sons coming down tomorrow. I think I have another 40 to bring over. We've always prided ourselves on constituent services in this office. During COVID, we've serviced over 800 people from the district with issues about unemployment, about healthcare, housing. I mean, try finding an apartment during a pandemic in some of our towns. And I think we've worked hard, and I've been very, very lucky to have fantastic staff over the years. They're the ones who make me look good. Sue Templeton, Meg Kilcoyne, Steve Mendoza, Dewey Duhamel, and Charlie White, Skip Bacot. They're just the staff I'd have working for me now. And they're all landing on their feet. By the way, so Josh Duhamel is going with Megan, working her office. And Sue Templeton is going to be the district director for Senator John Cronin. So they'll have some consistency in uniformity there. We've tried to help. What I've always admired about Berlin over the years is you keep the small town atmosphere with taking advantage of development on the edges of the town. And please, please keep that up. I remember when the town came into the district and Walter Bickford took me for a ride around, and there's all the land from the town center to 495. I've always been afraid I'd drive home someday and see foundations being poured, and I just hope the efforts that have been and I was happy then when he told me, the farming regulations and the rest. And, there's Walter. God, what good memories. Just keep doing that. And the other things, just even the small things we talked about, you were kind enough to mention the big things, but like the vehicle for the fire and the police, go out to the woods, the irrigation pump, the senior van. I don't know if we want to talk about that whole thing, but that's what you do. And for whoever's listening from the town, I want to say to you, you don't know the quality. I hope you know the quality of the town officials that you have. Being a member of a select board is not a part-time job the way it may have been years ago. And Scott and Peg and Chris and all those that have served over the years, it creeps into every day of their life. Some part of that job. It's not a part-time job anymore. And you're lucky. I'm lucky in all my towns, the people that have stepped up to lead, whether we've always agreed on things, which is usually not, and you don't want to agree on everything. That doesn't lead to good policies. You want some debate and discussion. But they've always kept it professional and full of integrity. I'll tell you, you're lucky with the quality of the town officials that you have. And Mary, that rock and consistency, who helped Margaret hit the ground running, and the leadership of your town, and at times of change, and police and fire. And oh God, look at that.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Such good memories. And in Margaret's still relatively new, but town administrator, the ultimate utility players. And she's been, since she first got here, reaching out to us on a regular basis and very accessible when we need something. And in one thing that's always helped with your town and through Mary's consistency is, well, I'll use as the example, the piece of legislation that that created the town administrator position. And that, we got that done in light speed by State House standards. I mean, it happened at a November election. It was done by January. After that, but you guys expected every piece of legislation to happen that quickly. I didn't do myself any favors. And really, I've taken too much time, but I just want to thank the people of the town of Berlin for being there, for your kindness, your affection. Even before I represented you, when I had kids, people reached out. My kids came when I lost my parents, my deployments overseas. In elections. And yes, the elections were important because I wouldn't even be having this conversation, but the support that in elections, but also the initiatives, we took at the State House. They couldn't have done all these other things without the people of Berlin. So
Well, we want to thank you for all you do, and please don't be a stranger.
oh no,
You can stop in anytime to Lowe's or
I'll still be driving
town
through a while.
offices.
So I just hope the last conversation I ever had with my father, of all places, apropos at the Old Timers, the night before I left for Iraq. And I think I've told the story numerous times before, and he had served in the Second World War. He had been a medic at Normandy in the first wave ashore and never talked about his war. And I was proud last year to actually go to Normandy for the 75th anniversary, but I said, tell me about your war. And he starts laughing, and he had worked for the town of Clinton, the water department, for 40 years. He looked around the bar and he knew every person in the bar and some trial or tribulation they had been through in their life. And he said, they all got through. You don't have to put a uniform on to be a hero. take care of your family. Take care of your town, take care of the people around you. And as we left the bar that night, he said, wherever you go, never forget those people, and never forget your motivations and the reasons of why you do what you do. And it's those people, the little guy. Never forget the little guy.
Mhm.
And I hope he's looking down tonight and approving of what he sees. So thank you very much. God bless. Merry Christmas. Hope I see you all soon. Stay healthy.
Thanks, Hank.
Please stay healthy.
Thank you, Hank.
Thank you.
And thank you for your service to our country.
Absolutely. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Peace.
Wow, now who gets to follow that? Oh, it's Margaret in the budget.
Oh, well, that
You
was
gotta-
very nice. Mary, if you could send a copy, I can email you what I wrote, or you can just email the whole thing. I'll be in touch tomorrow. Okay. All
That was
right.
nice. Well done, Chris. Thank you.
Hey.
Appreciate you and Mary
That was
putting that
beautiful.
together.
And Mary, nice job on the letter. Thank you.
Correct.
Yes.
Well done.
All right. So we're going to move on to the review of the draft fiscal year 2022 budget.
So, through the chair. I don't know. I'm just gonna try to do something here
Here's-
and not take too long because I
Really?
don't want to put you all to sleep. All
Really,
right,
here's
so
Margaret's pieces. Look at the
I
yellow
thought it
line.
was-
Yes or no?
well, it's important in any revenue-based budget, and drum roll please, to really take a look at revenues and see what we are preliminarily projecting for FY22. So rather than propose any or make any recommendations on budget lines tonight, I'd much prefer to, what the heck, hold on. I'd much prefer to share a few things that I prepared so you can kind of get a glimpse of where we're at and what available revenues might look like, of course, given the fact that we are still in a pandemic and we won't be out of the woods until probably fall of next year if we're lucky. So last year, you might recall that we encouraged using the Department of Revenues or the DLS guidelines, the formula approach to establishing a rates or increases for the tax levy. This allows for the tax levy to be increased by 2.5% each year. And if we stick with a formula calculation and hover around that 2.3, 2.5% each year, there'll be less in the way, we should expect less in the way of significant spikes or even significant dips. So you can see the past, I think this is a 7-year history plus the projection for FY22, which shows a 2.5% increase in the tax levy. And you can see where we've been and the trajectory that we want to try to stay on to try to stabilize the tax levy moving forward. So there can be, so we can try to have some certainty year on year. All right. So that's just a glimpse of the past several years and where we're heading. And you can see this line. That's what the goal is, to try to stay on a stable line rather than have significant fluctuations. All right, so on the preliminary revenue summary sheet, I took a snapshot of this. And again, these are very, very preliminary figures. We still have a lot to do with refining, with refining numbers to reflect actuals. And we also have to continue to project very conservatively into the coming year because we know that there is still some potential, there's likely still some potential economic fallout, especially with large commercials. So we have to be particularly vigilant with our property taxes. So if we use the 2%, the 2.5%, we look at last year's tax levy And we add, and we increase that by 2.5% for the current year. Multiply it by 2.5% for FY '22, which is the allowable increase to the tax levy, we get a number of $309,359, which would be the allowable increase or the amount that we want to limit the tax increase to in FY '22. So that would be the 2.5% increase. If we were allowed to use the entire town's tax levy, and the allowable increase on that, it would be significantly greater than that. It could be running in the 5.4% range. And we know this is not the time to be looking at 5%, 5.4% increases in property taxes used. It's not the best time. Plus, we want to stay on this kind of level trajectory. So this is how I would recommend that we control the tax increases by sticking to the 2.5% here. Now, under new growth, we are projecting, and this is very, very preliminary, we don't have a final new growth figure yet, but another $200,000 with the development primarily of residential units, the units at Highland Ridge, the units that are off of West Street and the subdivision, and then there'll be some other scattered residential developments around town. State aid. We actually, just on Friday, the state finalized the FY '21 cherry sheets. They did come in over our projected amount this year of $201,268 for local receipts. But preliminarily, we are still going with that lower number because what happened in FY '21 was that the state legislature tries to put forth a goodwill resolution each year on state aid, and they did that in FY '21. However, COVID hit, and they had already made that resolution. So in FY '21, they've stuck with it. I can't say that I would expect the same for FY '22. I think the state is going to be hit particularly hard, where the federal government can't come to terms on aid to the states and localities. So I would recommend still projecting very conservatively for state aid. Offset, I'm losing track of my lines here. What's this one? Local receipts. Local receipts, on the recap, the local receipts only came in at a little over $870,000. So we're really going to have to review that again to see if this projection here, the $856,555, is still a reasonable projection for FY '22. We don't want to overproject local receipts. So we have to look particularly close at motor vehicle excise. We don't expect that to take a huge hit, but we also have to look at local permits, especially the permits issued by the Inspection Services Department. Offset receipts. This is projected at a lower amount this year because of the completion of Riverbridge Apartments and the fact that our plumbing and gas inspector has actually come in with lower projected revenues on permit fees. So because of he has reduced his by $35,000, and that's where you see the reduction here. And it's important to note that offset receipts are a direct offset to the proposed budget expenses. So you get the offset receipts for $275,000. You see the budget expense of $275,000. Reserve receipts. This is this category here is reduced by $229,753, largely because we had applied $235,601 of Highland Commons public safety mitigation funds this year to pay off the ladder truck. That is completely off the budget now. And so the reserve receipts is reduced. I'm not sure what the other piece of the reserve receipts is here, but the entire ladder truck debt service was paid from public safety mitigation funds. And so public safety mitigation funds is the largest reduced piece of the reserve receipts here. Yes, Peg.
So Margaret, on that, with talk of, continued talk of JCPenney going bankrupt, I think they were the latest one. I don't think Berlin was tapped, or Berlin Marlboro was tapped for that. But are you expecting a giant dip in the mitigation funds, either coming from Highland Commons, where there's still buildings open, and the mall, which has way too many stores that are closed?
So that's a really good question. And all I can say is that we have not been approached.
Okay.
Well,
Okay.
but like, there's no mitigation from Solomon Pond Mall anymore, is there? They've paid out their mitigation.
Oh, yeah, not Solomon Pond. This is just
Oh, it's
Highland
just Highland.
Commons now. Yep, it's
Yep.
just Highland Commons. And if we are going to get Riverbridge mitigation, that's only a 5-year temporary mitigation
Yep.
payment. So this is really strictly Highland Commons at this
Okay.
point.
Thanks.
Okay, yeah,
And then if we're at, sorry, since we've,
that's okay.
the local receipts in 20 was over $1 million. And so you really think there's a 20% reduction in local receipts? And it's something that has been going up at a pretty substantial amount
So
year
local
over year anyway.
receipts, the actual, Scott, it's interesting because actual local receipts came in at 870,000. So there has been a dip. There has been a dip
Well,
in local
No,
receipts.
I see fiscal year 20 actual on your spreadsheet at
Well, yeah.
1,084,000. And so fiscal year 20 actually was over $1 million. And although there might be some people who are reducing their cars, you would think the addition of 200 apartment buildings to this
Yes.
town, those
Yes.
people will have cars, so that number is unlikely to go down then for that.
Yeah, the number could go either way. This is very preliminary. We've only carried the FY21 projection at this point. We really do have to look at those big nuts. I mean, motor vehicle excise and local permits, the building permits in particular, are the big nuts in that category, and we really have to scrub them. So yeah.
And then excess levy capacity, which you alluded to when you talked about line one, that
Mhm.
our goal is 2.5%, but of course we have some extra capacity because the town has
Yeah.
been
Yeah.
our last several decades.
Yeah.
And I maintain that there is never a good time to raise it by 6% without actually having to be forced to go back to the taxpayers for it, and would like us to start thinking about an underride, which gets rid of that excess levy capacity, so that that a town meeting and select board and FinCom couldn't raise it by 6% without actually having to go back to the taxpayers for it.
It's a permanent reduction in the tax levy, and I understand your question. And yes, there is excess levy capacity, and there's going to be excess levy capacity. The town is not taxing any of the debt exclusion amount on the highway barn, first of all. So there's about $877,000 in excluded debt that the town is not taxing on. So that is excess levy capacity that's inherently due to not including it on the tax rate. So that's sitting there until the debt's paid off. When the debt's paid off, that excess levy capacity goes away. Yes, we do need to look at additional excess levy capacity to see if there is the potential for an underride or a permanent reduction in the levy. It would restrict the town to increasing by 2.5% every year, but it would permanently reduce the levy. If we find ourselves in that fortunate position that we have excess levy capacity significantly beyond the debt excluded amount, I think it's something that should be.
When I was on FinCom, it
looked
was,
at.
we had about $1 million of excess levy capacity beyond the debt exclusion.
Okay. There's definitely not $1 million beyond the debt exclusion now. I think there could be a couple of 100,000 beyond the debt exclusion though. But even that could be potentially considered for an
So if we can
underride.
at least look at what that number, at least look at what that number is at some point.
Yeah. All right. So where are we at? Are we at reserve? Oh, we did reserve receipts. Okay. So I've explained that. Other revenue sources. So in FY21, the town used $140,000 of free cash to fund that contingency line item. At this point, I'm not expecting that that contingency line item was meant to be a temporary thing because things with COVID were so incredibly uncertain, primarily. I'm not expecting that to come back at this point. We do have a well-funded reserve fund that could be used. We'll look at this a little more, but $140,000 of that is free cash that was used for the contingency line item. Another $94,000 of that was from prior capital articles that went to fund Berlin Memorial School's capital assessment that is now on budget. It's not part of the capital budget outside of the operating budget. So those funds are no longer there. And then the final piece of this was a $9,000 amount that came from the assessor's overlay surplus to fund the utility appraisals that began, the requirement began in FY21, but that's now going to be ongoing. And so we're not going to be using assessor's overlay surplus to fund that. And then less obligations, we simply don't know what the cherry sheet assessments will be. And we have not finally set what the assessor's allowance for abatements will be. So for now, we're just carrying that number. So as you can see, the total increase, the total budget increase here is 309,359. The bottom line budget decrease, though, is $198,394 from the FY21 approved amount. So again, this is erasing the contingency line item, and it's decreasing, it's decreasing the amount budgeted for offset receipts. It's a significant decrease in the debt service because of the ladder truck payoff. Based on the budget requests we've received so far, and if we were to include, or if the Finance Committee was to approve the 2% COLAs recommended by Personnel Committee, which would run in the $45,000 range, the total increase in revenues of $359,000 could potentially fund the entire expense budget for FY22. That includes if the regional school assessments can come in at, I would hope that they could also come in at 2% since the town is not growing, is not going to be seeing budget growth. It would be really helpful, and we'll have to talk with the schools about coming in at a 2% increase, but you could do the math on this to see what the maximum amount of the intergovernmental governmental assessments would have to be to fit in that $14,245,235 projected revenue.
And we don't have a sense yet from the schools on the student ratio at Tohoto for their share and whether or not Berlin is picking up more than their percentages changed, or even Assabet where the percentage changed, because the school could still go up by 2%, but if we have 5% more students than we had last year, which happened I think last year.
That's a good point too, because the Assabet, we have not received any kind of enrollment projections for Assabet yet. We don't know if there's going to be a bump in student enrollment, and that certainly would increase it. We have received a preliminary budget presentation that was done by Bob Conry to the school committee, I don't know, a week or two ago. Mm-hmm. The proposed budget increase at Tohoto would be 6.5%, and for Berlin Memorial School, it would be, I want to say 3.4%. I could be wrong, but we don't know. We don't yet know what the allocations are going to be to the member towns, so I can't really calculate that yet. It does seem pretty big, and so we're going to have to really kind of scrub that as well to see what their budget increases mean for Berlin. I would like to see the town operate within these revenue constraints, and I think the taxpayers would also appreciate that.
Nice
Do you
job.
have any other? Excuse me.
Nice job.
Do you have any other questions on this one? So finally, there had been discussion about, can residents go in and use a tax impact calculator? Well, this is not representative of, number one, assessed value increases for FY22. It's also not, I can't scroll up. Oh, yes, maybe I can. Hold on. There we go. This is reflective of FY21. This is not reflective of FY22. So I just wanted, that's my first disclaimer here. My second is that it does not reflect the FY22 levy. So there's the potential for changes in assessments in property value, and also there's going to be a different total levy here, okay, for FY22. But what it does give it a glimpse of, when you plug in the number 309,360, which is that number that I showed on the revenue sheet, it does give you a sense of what the impact, kind of a sampling of what the impact could be on a residential tax rate and tax bill, and on the commercial as well. So based on the FY21 tax rates, you see that it would be 39 cents on the 1,000 for a residential tax bill, and 64 cents on the 1,000 for a commercial tax bill. And with an average single family residence of $443,693, the total tax bill impact, as a sampling again, would be $173 for the year. So the DOR puts out this calculator. Once we do have, it just runs a year behind. That's the problem with this. We might be able to devise something where we could reflect FY22 numbers at some point, but I just wanted to give you kind of a sampling of what the tax rate impact calculator might show.
But that also assumes that we have the same balance between the commercial and residential. Because we do a
That's
little
right.
bit of
That's also
the
something
commercial
that's going to change
right.
for FY22.
Right.
So again, this is a calculator that's running a year behind. I don't foresee a huge difference in the shift for residential and commercial, but it's going to be different. It's going to be slightly different in FY22. But anyway, hopefully this type of thing helps. We might be able to try to devise something for future years or for the coming year, but it gives you a sense. Okay. All right. Everybody all set?
Yep.
Oh, done.
Well done, Margaret. Well done.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. We move on to renewal of licenses for calendar year 2021. And it looked like, did we only have one?
Just one. Cabela's, and it's the automatic amusement device license.
Okay,
They will have one more. They will have their Class 1 motor vehicle license, but that'll be for next week.
okay, no problem. Okay, so do I hear a motion?
So moved.
And seconded.
Okay, and we'll take a vote. Keith, aye.
Stone Eye.
Hawkins, aye.
That's unanimous. And we've got further review of the board and committee handbook draft. So I did my part.
You did. You did. You did.
I read through it because it was very hard to tell.
Yes.
I read through everything, took a couple days because I wasn't
Yep.
going to sit and do it all at once. And I did as much of the grammar and spelling corrections as possible. And I think there was really just a few
Yeah.
items that are left undone.
I do too. I think there were just a couple questions you had, Chris. Peg
And
said
you know.
stalling for time till I find them. Oh, so one was on the consideration for appointment. where, like the fifth line down says the select board also takes into account other relevant factors such as age, sex, race, experience, residential location, et cetera, et cetera. And Chris, you asked if it was legal, if it should be deleted. Margaret's shaking her head, no, no.
Need
Leave
a
it.
few more need a few more revisions there.
Ah, all right.
I think we're gonna let Margaret do the last revision.
Want me to do the last, want me to just do the final cleanup?
Do the
Yeah.
final cleanup. Yeah, because honestly, all I did is that, Chris, I went through and I ran it through spell check again and it didn't find anything. And I updated the table of contents, in it. So I'm thinking we're probably at like 90% right about now. So Margaret, and then Chris, you added the paragraph about sharing information between boards and committees,
Yes.
as to what you're doing. That was a nice highlight. And a code of ethics, you mentioned it should be attached. And then Margaret, you had written back that the questions I had on appointees, I think were correct. So I'm hoping, Margaret, that when you go through that there'll be limited
Okay.
changes that you need to make, and then we can update the table of contents, PDF it, and whiz it out and see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So, I really think we're almost there.
I do
Yeah.
too.
I agree.
Yep.
Okay. Are we moving on?
Yes.
I guess we're moving on. New business, review of the draft of the Town of Berlin External Communications Guidelines. We're just going to be the best communicators, aren't we?
Well, I thought that I'd, given the, given discussions, recent discussions and objectives to try to streamline communications, I thought that it might be a good idea to put together some guidelines. This doesn't have to be hard and fast. It can't be hard and fast. You're going to have some meetings that you just, it's not feasible. It's not possible to do all this, use all these communication methods. But with others, there are things that we could do to get the word out. So when, for example, we're putting something up, and this is just an example, putting something up on the website, we'll also do this, this, and this. So I just wanted to share it with the board to see if you think that it captures all the usual.
And I think this arose out of the shared streets issue where, maybe we could have done a better job of getting the information out to people and the link to the Zoom and whatever. So, yeah, it's nice to have those things in front of us so that we can use them when we need to, or as much as we need to. So,
No.
Did you want a vote or?
Well, if the board's happy with the guidelines the way they are, it's just a set of guidelines that I'd share with departments, boards, and committees. And we could probably attach it to the board and committee handbook.
Okay. So what do you think?
I like it.
I think it's fine.
Yep.
Okay. So do I hear a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay,
Well, thank you.
take a vote. Keith, aye.
Stone eye.
Hawkins, aye.
Well, now, thank you. Thank you again.
Official.
Margaret, what I'll
Alright.
do too, when it comes for the January edition of, hey, look what Berlin has done, over the past month, I'll throw that in there as well. Obviously not the entire thing because we'll take up the entire item. But at least give a summary of folks. And then once we post it, I can let people know where it is so that, yeah, are we going to hit everybody in town? No. Is that the expectation? No, but to get it out as much as possible, then I think this is awesome. And if somebody says, hey, you forgot about blah, 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 then you know what? we review and we add it if it's appropriate.
Mary, I'll send this to you in Word, okay? To put up. Actually, it's in the drive in Word, I think.
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
Now, was that my version in the Google Drive of the handbook?
I think I probably, I think it was. I think it was.
Okay, it looked like it, but I wasn't sure.
Okay, and so Peg, yours is the most recent one, right?
Correct. And the only reason that I know that is that I was looking at the table of contents and it wasn't as long as
Okay,
the one that I had sent out last night. But honestly, Margaret, and then the comment that I had put in there to you about somewhere on some page regarding remote participation, I think that you had said in an email that you were going to take a look at it. So I didn't change it. I didn't take it out. But
Yeah,
that was
Yeah.
that was it. It was just updating the table of contents. So whatever's in your email is the latest one.
okay, okay, good.
all right. And I'll tell you, because of the length of this document, I think it's going to be used as a reference.
Yes.
I don't think
Yep.
people are going to be reading it from cover to cover.
Nope. Nope.
But-
No, but you know what? It level sets, Chris.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, the whole object is for someone to say, oh,
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know. I didn't know that I was supposed to blah, blah, blah. Well, here it is. And, you know, the assumption is, or at least my assumption is that the chairman of any board or committee, when a newbie comes on, is to say, hey, it's out there. You know, I recommend that you take a couple nights, read it, go through it, come back if you have questions. And then if the person does, great. The person doesn't, great. But at
Are we-
least we have an opportunity to say, you know, you should have, you know, you need to look at, you know, here's the guidelines for you to follow.
So how are we planning to disseminate this? Just by email? On the webpage,
think-
Here we go. We're talking about the external communication.
Where's Margaret? Where's Margaret's guidelines?
Right into use. So I think that it's really, I think that it needs to be widely disseminated through
Yeah.
emails, right? And then I think there are going to be certain things that we're going to want to share during the annual reappointment process. And this is one of them. I think every time a person is appointed or reappointed to the committee, they should receive the link to this. You know,
Yeah.
they should, you know, we should be proactive. So this is one of those things I think that should be given to them at reappointment time.
Margaret, when it's final, can you maybe touch on it through a department head meeting that you have, just to let people know that it's out there? And, you know, not that I want to print 85 hard copies of it. I don't think that's
Yes.
efficient. But at least to point people to say, you
Yeah,
know.
I'd like to circulate this one last time to the town clerk and to stakeholder department heads as well, just to make sure that it encompasses everything, so we don't have to come right back and
Correct.
buy it again. Okay,
Yep,
I'll do
and-
that. I'll do that this week.
Yep. And remind them, silence means acceptance.
Okay,
Well, I mean, but that's the way, you know what, years ago when I was on personnel
I
and we
know.
would,
that's
and we
fine.
would send stuff out and you'd hold meetings and you would hear crickets and then people would come back and say, oh, well, I've got 85 changes. It's like, sorry, you're gonna have to wait till the next cycle. So,
Right.
you know,
Well,
it's,
just tell them.
yeah,
Silence means,
silence means acceptance.
right.
Okay, all right.
All right. So I think go ahead.
I'm sorry, I have one last thing. It was in my TA report, and Mary just reminded me of this. The plastic bag ban, we talked at your last meeting about that and the effective date that businesses were notified of
Right.
January 1st. I think it was, I could be wrong, but tell me if I got it right. It was the board's consensus not to go out and start enforcing on January 1st.
Right.
Let us take the next meeting and talk about a process that enforcement would occur in the future. Is that right?
Yes, it
Mhm.
is.
All right. Okay, good.
Okay. Then we're on board questions and comments. Got one? Got one?
One,
Great.
one.
Go ahead.
Again, just, I'm sure it's absolutely my confusion over the past 2 weeks. Past 2 weeks have been an absolute blur for me. But door judging this tomorrow.
Mhm.
So Scott, I don't know if you'll be back in town by then. So Chris, I'll meet you down there, and if you don't mind me wobbling down the hall with you,
We have to
we'll
go-
judge
we
and
have to
then.
go to several different locations, don't
Yeah.
we?
Yeah, you've got the town 1870, the highway garage, possibly the library, and then, of course, this building.
All right. So
So-
where do we want to start?
Might as well start at the
Look.
municipal building.
You're
If
gonna-
that's- Unless
you're
you,
gonna love
unless you,
these.
well, there was quite a few categories.
Yeah.
Not enough of one kind, I'll tell you that.
Okay. So yeah, I'll probably come down a little before 3.
All right. Mike
Right,
Crutch
and-
and I will meet you there a little bit before 3.
And while I'm
how
in
are we-
town, I am coming from out of state today, and so I should not be interacting with other people in person. So I'll be joining over Zoom.
Okay.
And so how are we gonna do that, Margaret?
If you meet me here, you can take my phone around and you can use my phone to Zoom with Scott. I can put, so you could just use my, you could use my phone.
You're not coming with?
Well, I could, I just have to work too.
Yeah,
But I will,
right.
we'll set it up here and see how it goes.
unless you'd rather have us go to the other locations first and then come back. Whatever,
But
we have
Scott-
what your
but
schedule
Scott-
is like,
Scott needs to be able to look at, he needs to
Right.
be able to look at it through Zoom.
right?
Yeah.
We can-
Whatever.
I'll-
easier.
I'll work with you, whatever it takes.
All right, I'll meet you down at the town offices then a little before 3.
Me too.
Okay,
Okay.
okay.
That was my one question.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. That's it.
That was it.
That
Okay.
was it.
All right, then, since we do not need our executive sketch,
Wow.
I
Wow.
Alright.
What's in your tea tonight there, Chris?
don't have anything.
There might be any just in time, it sounds like.
I So we do not have an executive session that we need to do tonight, so I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Adjourned and Merry Christmas.
Yes, I
Jane.
second that, both of those.
Okay. And I.
Aye, aye, aye.